So you're on the hunt for your favorite records. Well, before you go to the store and start buying them all up, I want to share with you some tips and tricks that I have picked up over the years on this episode of Todd's Turntable Talk. Welcome to another episode of Todd's Turntable Talk. And before we get started, as always, if it's your first time on this channel or if you just haven't done it yet, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification to alert you each and every time a new episode drops on our channel. So you want to go out to the store and you want to start picking up your favorite records. It's a really fun experience. And for me, nothing beats digging through crates of records and finding that record you've always wanted. There's still a few that are in my wish list that maybe we'll talk about in a future episode. But when you go to the record store, and it's really can be overwhelming. There's so much there. There's multiple copies of the same record if they're used records. How do you know which one to pick? How do you know if it's a good copy? And there's also things like online purchasing and things like that. So I thought it'd be really cool to walk you guys through the process that I go through anyway when I look for new records. Now, my way is not gospel, it's not the only way. This is just some tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that I would like to share with you to make your vinyl shopping experiences a little easier. Now, the most important thing is the quality of the record you're purchasing. If you're going to get something brand new, you're pretty likely to get a record that works just fine. Very rarely have I gotten something from a company that's brand new and had to send it back. Once in a great while, you'll get something like a warp that is just too extreme that the record isn't playable, or you'll get a lot of noise on the record even though it's brand new. Sometimes that'll happen, but it's a very rare occurrence. But usually when it does, you can contact the record company that put the record out and get an exchange for an exact replacement. Or you can go back to that store and the person there will happily exchange you that one for another copy. There isn't a whole lot of tips and tricks I have as far as buying brand new because it's a level playing field. New records are the same across the board no matter where you go. My biggest recommendation buying new records is, like I've been saying over and over again, hit your local record stores. Look online, Google it, record stores near me. Find your local independent record stores. I'm not talking about places like Guitar Center or Target or Walmart or Best Buy or Amazon even, any of that. I'm talking about a store run by a person who that's their whole thing. It's their store and this is how they make their money, and they're keeping this collecting thing alive and well. And really the local record stores are responsible for a lot of the resurgence here in vinyl anyway. So I strongly suggest hitting up those places when you want to get your new or used records. As far as used records go, there's a few things you want to watch out for. Now again, this is all personal preference. Do you want a mint pristine copy with no flaws at all? Those can be found, but you're going to end up paying a little bit more, which is understandable because it's a lot older, and if it's rarely ever been played, it's almost like buying a brand new record, but from that long ago. So they become kind of collector's items. But if you want to just dig through the bins and find the best quality one you can, there's a few tricks to it, a few things to look for. First of all, when you are looking through the records, if the record that you're eyeing, if you can see the ring of the record through the jacket of the record, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the best quality. And that's not to say that the record was poorly taken care of, but that record was well loved and listened to very, very frequently. So you're likely to get a record with a lot more surface noise, maybe even a scratch or two. If you don't care about those kind of things, I mean, more power to you. But I like to have as clean a listening experience as possible. So I tend to stray away from ones like that have the real worn covers. For me, that usually is a telltale sign that the vinyl inside isn't going to be in the greatest shape ever. Now, you're not very likely to find a record with no damage to the cover whatsoever. Taking it in and out of where it was stored, opening it and closing it all the time, people listening to the record over and over, you're going to get wear and tear. It's just going to happen. finding a mint cover is very, very unlikely. I've maybe found one or two out of my 300 records that I have, and it was pure dumb luck. But for me, the cover isn't a make or break. Yes, it's nice to have a cover that looks cool, but I care more about what's inside as opposed to the outside. Kind of like relationships. And who doesn't want to have a relationship with their music? So what I tend to do, and I'm going to use this new copy, well, new used copy of Led Zeppelin 4 that I just purchased. If I was looking at a copy in the record store, I would be taking the vinyl out and examining it. Now, be careful because there are some stores that don't allow you to do this. There are also stores that don't allow you to take pictures or video. I've never understood that. I've always thought that was a really strange practice because for me, if I owned a record store and people were taking pictures and videos of my stuff, that's more business for me. That's people seeing my stuff. That's possibly going to get me some new customers. How cool would that be? So I've never quite understood that, but that is a rule that some stores have. So make sure that is not a rule of the store before you walk in. Now, if the store is more chill, like most of the stores I like to shop at, you can really take the record out. And what I tend to do is I'll take it out and I take the vinyl itself out. Now, remember, when you take a record out, never ever touch the surface of the record with your fingers. The oils from your fingers and things like that can do damage to your record. Not to mention, you're in somebody's store, you're handling a product that you haven't bought yet, so you want to be very careful as to not damage their product whatsoever, because if you do, you're walking out with the record regardless. You break it, you bought it. What I tend to do is take it out very gently and hold it by the sides like this. And first thing I will do is try to catch light on the record to see if I see any scratches. Scratches are the main thing you want to try to avoid on a record because, well, that just ruins your listening experience. It can make it skip. It can make it get stuck in a loop. Scratches suck. So as you hold this up, it doesn't really come through on camera very, very well. But this album is pristine. There's not a single scratch on either side of the record. I actually will also hold it up like this to see if you can see any noticeable warps. As you can see, the record is very flat and doesn't seem to be any warps whatsoever on this record. Now, the only other thing is sometimes you'll pull them out and the records might look dirty, but dirt and smudges can always be cleaned off and will give you a fairly nice sounding record. This method is 98% accurate. I'm not someone that personally wants it to be pristine 100% if I'm getting a lot older record. It's something I'm willing to live with. Now, new records you can't take out and look at, unfortunately, but when I got it home, I don't know if this comes through very well at all, but there is a definite dip and warp in the record. When I put it on the turntable, it kind of wobbles and the needle moves up and down because of the warp, and I was terrified. I put it on the turntable and it played fantastic. Sounds great. You can't hear anything weird. The warp doesn't affect the playability. It doesn't hurt your needle because really the needle is just following the grooves anyway. If you have a real drastic warp, that can hurt your needle. If the record's literally wobbling like crazy and it's obviously very dipped and curved, don't mess with that. But if it has a slight warp to it and it plays just fine, my recommendation is to not even worry about it. For me, it's all about the listening experience, not so much what the record looks like as it's playing. So if you get one that has a slight warp to it, but it still plays, you still win. Now, a couple things you want to look out for, and this mostly applies to online purchasing. I am not a big fan of buying records from private owners online, mostly eBay. I steer completely clear of eBay because a lot of times what happens is people will go to your local record store. They will buy up a bunch of these popular records for the price that record store is charging. Then they will go put it on this eBay store and jack up the price even more, sometimes to ridiculous amounts. The biggest victim of that is record store day. A lot of times what used to happen, but not so much anymore, people will go and scoop up 2-3 copies of something that comes out on record store day. They'll take it home, put it up on eBay, and before you know it, the record that was $25 is now $70. That's horrible. To me, those people are dirtbags in the collecting community, because what they're doing is basically driving up prices of things that don't need to be driven up, and making it even harder on people that spend their hard-earned money, that love to collect music, that waited for record store day for this thing to come out. They go to their store and somebody snatched them all up, and now if they really want it, they're gonna have to pay out the butt for it, and that's not cool. So I try to stay away from eBay as much as possible for basically that reason. Once in a while you'll find an okay price on eBay for records, but also the problem is you have to take the people at their word. You can't look at the record, you can't inspect it on your own. So you could get a record in the mail that they claimed was mint condition, that has a scratch or two on it, or has a small warp to it, or isn't in the best shape that they said it was. If I'm gonna buy used, I like to be able to inspect it as best as I can. I mean, maybe I just have trust issues. So if I can't inspect it for myself, chances are I'm not gonna buy it. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully this gives you some tips on how to find a good versus bad record at your local store, and get you some great records to take home and listen to and enjoy. If there's any questions you have about this video, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if there's any topics you'd like to hear discussed on the show, please again, feel free to leave a comment below and a recommendation. And we'll try to do as much as we can and create as much content as you would like to see. So we'll see you next time here on Todd's Turntable Talk.